So, a couple weeks ago I made a video about why I think switching cars has no immediate effect on your gameplay. The entire video was a joke and totally just my opinion, but a ton of you were still genuinely curious about what car is the best car, and why almost everyone uses one of the 4 main cars when there are literally over 70 total cars to choose from. I thought I might as well make a video about it since there's so many people that wanted to know. So the plan is, I created a survey asking people what car they think is best for certain tasks. That way, if you're really good at flicks, you can choose whatever the community thinks is the best car for flicking, or whatever other skill you like the most. And then I'm gonna put it to the test and give you my thoughts and personal experience as to why the community chose these cars. So the topics we're covering today are air dribbling, ground dribbling, flicks, power shots, bounce dribbling, flip resets, 50-50s, aerials/redirects, and pinches. And by the way, you can trust the percentages we got for this since we had over 850 people complete the survey. Minus about 50 of them, because some of you thought you were so funny and you just put scarab for every single answer, which wasn't annoying at all, by the way, so thank you for your honest responses. But before we get started, I have to tell you guys about the channel's first ever sponsor. Yeah. So today's video is sponsored by Displate. Displates are basically high quality metal posters that are super easy to set up. They have a huge variety to choose from, so if you're a huge fan of Rocket League, which you probably are if you're watching this, then you can literally search up Rocket League on their website and there are so many awesome options to choose from. So I got a few of my own. I got this cool Rocket League one for my favorite music artist, and I also got an extra one for my brother that I'm sure he's gonna love. And when they came in, it was so easy to set up. Like, look at this. I literally just had to put the protective leaf thing on the wall and then the magnet over that and then just put the poster there. It's actually perfect for me because I live in a dorm for most of the year and I don't even have to hammer any nails in the wall or anything. And the other thing is they actually plant a tree for every displate purchased. So since I got 3 displates, they planted 3 trees. So it's a win-win, unless you hate the planet for some reason. What do you hate, the planet or something? Come on! And if you use the link in the description within the first 2 weeks of this video, then you'll get 30% off, which is awesome. And if you use it anytime after that, you'll still get 15% off, so you'll be supporting the channel regardless. So thanks to Displate for sponsoring the video. Click the link in the description if you want to check them out, and let's get back into the video. So the first topic was for air dribbles, and by far the breakout was voted to be the best, which isn't really a surprise. You know all those guys that can air dribble infinitely like DLG and Gainer, they all use the breakout, and I've gotta say, I definitely agree. There's really just something about the nose of it that allows you to keep control of it so easily, so for air dribbles, breakout is definitely the way to go. Also, Octane was voted second for air dribbles, which I definitely agree with too. It's pretty much just as easy for me to air dribble with the Octane as it is for the breakout, except you can accidentally get a wheel touch more often, so the breakout is definitely still better. And just to be clear before we move on, all of these skills I'm talking about in this video are totally possible with any car, but we're just talking about what's easier with each of them. Alright, next up is ground dribbling, and this one, definitely clear, it's the Octane and Fennec. By the way, whenever I say Octane in this video, I'm referring to both the Octane and the Fennec. They both have the same hitbox, so it's not a big deal which one we're talking about. The Octane has one of the tallest hitboxes, so it's way easier to make sharp turns with it while still keeping control of the ball. Whereas with flatter cars, sometimes when you're trying to make a sharp turn, you'll just slide underneath it. Once again, it's not impossible to take sharp turns with either car, but it's definitely easier with the Octane. Next up is flicks. This is actually a pretty close spread between the Dominus, Octane, and Batmobile, but to be fair, it's not really clear what defines a car as good at flicks. Like, some people might say Octane is best because it's really consistent in the height and power that it gets, and others might say Batmobile because it's definitely the easiest to get the most power. So let me just explain my experience with flicking with each car. First, the Octane. Definitely, once you get it down, it has the most consistent power and height. However, the only downside is it's really hard to get some huge boomer flicks. It's not impossible, but it's just really hard to do. Now for the Batmobile. This one is pretty much the exact opposite. It's really easy to get insanely powerful flicks across the field, but it's really hard to be precise with them. I don't really have to put much effort into it to get it really high up. Only downside is it's really hard to be precise with the placement of my flick when I'm shooting it on net. Again, it's not impossible, but it's definitely harder. Now, for the Dominus, it's pretty much just a balance between them. Kinda makes sense why most people chose the Dominus, because it's pretty easy to get a bunch of power, but it's also pretty easy to be precise with it. It's not the best at either of them, but it makes a really good balance since it's not as flat as the Batmobile, but it's also not as tall as the Octane. So yeah, I definitely agree with the community. The Dominus is the best for flicking, but it does depend how you look at it. Next up, we've got power shots. Pretty interesting for this one. More than half of you guys said Octane is best for power shots. Personally, I'm not even sure what I would have put for this one. When using any particular car, I've never really noticed my power shots to be suddenly better or just feel easier in general, so I wasn't really sure. And when I tested each of them out in custom training, I still didn't really feel a difference or see a difference in the speed of the shots I was hitting. The fastest I could get each shot to go was about the same no matter which car I was using. The only difference I found was that I was able to be much more precise with my shot placement with the Octane. But then again, that could just be because the Octane is what I use the most, so I'm probably just used to it. Overall, I really don't think the ability to hit power shots is any harder or easier with certain cars, but take that as you will because most of you guys thought that the Octane was clearly the best. Alright, bounce dribbling. For this one, it's definitely clear you guys thought Octane is best, and yeah, I totally agree. If you don't know what bounce dribbling is, it's what you're looking at right now. You're basically touching the ball just after it bounces each time to continue its upward momentum, and then you finish it off with a power shot. Definitely gonna agree that the Octane is best for this, because this is another one where having a taller hitbox is really helpful. With flatter cars, it's way easier to mistime the bounce. So yeah, this one's a no-brainer. The Octane is definitely the best. Okay, let's move on to flip resets. This one's more of a fun one, but it's definitely still interesting. You guys didn't have any definitive top answer for this one, but the top three were definitely Octane, Breakout, and Dominus, with Octane getting the most votes. I've tried out all three, and personally, I find it just as easy to hit flip resets in any of them. The main thing I like about them is that I have something to aim for on the bottom of the card to try and get the flip reset from. For flip resets, you basically want to hit the ball on the bottom of your car where your center of mass is, which you can find by just spinning around upside down. On the Breakout, it's that little gray spot there, and on the Dominus, it's that red spot there, and on the Octane, there's no specific spot to aim for, but the wheels are close enough together, so you don't really need an exact spot to aim for. It's definitely not as easy to hit flip resets in a car like the Batmobile, since you don't really have a spot to aim for, and the wheels are also pretty far apart, so it's a little harder to get it right. So overall, the Octane, Dominus, and Breakout are equally good for flip resets in my opinion. Next up is 50-50s. For this one, I wasn't too sure since, again, I never really noticed myself winning way more 50-50s when switching to a certain car. So I was pretty surprised to see everyone agreeing that it's definitely the Octane. I even went into a private match and tested this out with a friend to see if the Octane really is better at 50-50s than flat cars, and surprisingly, they seemed pretty much the same. I couldn't find a single example where it was clear that the Octane won a 50-50 because of its hitbox, nor could I find an example of it happening the other way around. After experimenting that, I genuinely think that hitboxes do not make a difference when it comes to 50-50s. But again, take that as you will because almost all of you thought the Octane was the best. Alright, next up is aerials and redirects. For this one, the top two were clearly Octane and Dominus, but they were pretty even. I went and tried them in a custom training pack, and they both felt pretty much just as good as the other. Only thing is, I definitely performed better using the Octane, but again, it's probably because I'm just used to it. I believe they're both pretty much just as good as each other, and that it's honestly not a big deal between choosing the Octane or Dominus over something like the Batmobile or the Breakout. For aerials, to me, it just doesn't seem like car choice is a huge deal. Alright, lastly, we've got pinches. You guys said Batmobile for number 1, Octane for number 2, and then Dominus for number 3. But this one is definitely testable. So I went into training and tried a bunch of cars out for myself, and I've got to say, I think they're all the same. There wasn't a car that I tried that I couldn't eventually get consistent pinches on. If I had to choose one, I'd probably say the Batmobile, but not because it's just better at pinches, but because it's just way easier for me to see how I'm supposed to hit the ball. I can use that front wheel as a point that I try and hit the ball at. With the Octane or Dominus, all I could see was the corner. There wasn't a specific mark on the car I could use. But over time, I was able to get consistent pinches with any car, so in my opinion, I think the car you use doesn't really matter much. So, now that you've got this information, you should be able to use it to decide which car you want to use. Make sure to pick the one that complements the most skills that you use often in-game. If you need a quick recap of what the results were for each car, there's a link in the description that shows the results from the survey, my picks from the survey, and the strengths and weaknesses of each car. And in the comments, let me know what car you use the most and why you use it. And I swear, if I see a single comment that says the Scarab, I am gonna